Welcome, ma'am. Thank you for being on the Honor Cafe of Hall of Heroes.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And today we have Doris Lewis Gresham, correct?
Yes.
All right. Um, where are you from?
I'm from Burke, Kentucky.
Burke, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Well, my wife is getting excited in the room right now because she's a Kentucky woman.
Oh, really? From where?
She was from well, when I met her, she was in Louisville, and also they lived in Bardstown, and so yeah. So, but how when did you move to Texas?
Oh, 1987, when my husband retired from the Army.
And you were in the Army also, correct?
Yes, but only for 4 years.
Well, that
He
is
retired.
service.
Yeah. He
Okay.
retired. He retired from the Army.
Okay. When did you enter your military service?
1949, when I became 18. I was going to college and I had all the recruiting stuff over with. And when the semester was over and my birthday happened, I left 5 days later for Camp Lee, Virginia for basic training.
So why did you want to serve?
I possibly because a cousin of mine was when I was in fourth grade. She joined the Navy or the Waves, and I thought, boy, that's a pretty uniform. Someday I'm going to do that. So I did that in the Army.
What was your job?
In the Army, I was a medic first, and then I went back to school in San Antonio and became a dental technician. And that after my husband retired, we had a dental laboratory here for 25 years in this town.
Wow. What did your husband do?
Dental technician.
Dental technician.
We met in Heidelberg.
Heidelberg.
Yeah, he'd been in Heidelberg a year, and when I got there, and then he left a year earlier than I did, and we got married after I got out and went back to school and dropped out again and got married. And we were married 63 years when he died in 2016.
When you were over in Germany, what was that like? What was that experience in that time frame?
Well, it was very interesting. We liked Germany very well, and the food and the people and lots of things to see, of course. And the army was always taking you on a bus to this town or that town, and just castles, and it was very interesting. Yes.
What was it like being a woman in the Army back in that time period?
Well, I'm afraid they were a little bit prejudiced against women. In fact, it stayed with my husband a long time because after we moved here and he was retired, there was a VFW right down the street from us, and no, it was American Legion, and so we went there to a dinner or something, and my husband told the guy at the desk, "Well, my wife's a veteran. Let let's sign her up," and he said, "Well, she can join the auxiliary." And my husband never went back to the American Legion, so he was kind of on my side.
Well, that's neat. Um, so where did you travel when your husband was in the Army?
We got married, and he was on orders to go to Paris in 9 days. We got married in Texas, and my family was all in Ohio and Kentucky. So we had 9 days to go meet them for the first time and get him on the train for Camp Kilmer in 9 days. And I had to get a passport, so I left a few weeks later. And we lived in Paris 3.5 years, had 2 daughters, and then back to the U.S. for a few years. And then we went to Ethiopia. My children started school in Ethiopia. There's an American base. The Army Security Agency had communications bases at high altitudes around the world, and that one was 7,600 feet. And so they had to have the support troops, hospital, dental, and medical. So we lived there my girls started school there, and we lived there 2.5 years.
What was that like living in Ethiopia?
Amazing. Really, I mean, the views, and the natives were so interesting, and I just couldn't. We were always going out taking slides, and
Yeah.
it was really, really beautiful place.
When you were over and you trained to be a dental technician, most people don't realize that during World War II, they asked the troops, what do you want? What's important? And besides food and having enough bullets, a lot of them complained about dental care, like they didn't have dental care. And that's when the dental corps really stood up. It was really robust, and they listened to the troops, and they're like, we need to keep their teeth healthy.
Yeah, I know. Well, dental technicians make dentures and devices and repair partial dentures. Of course, the dentists do all the mouth work like filling and things, but then they send their work to the dental laboratory, and we make something, and they send it back to the patient and put it in their mouth. But that's what we did for years and years.
Some of the best dental care I ever got was in the Army. I mean, I've not the dental care I've had as a civilian has never matched the care I got in the Army.
I think it's interesting. I have gold inlays in my teeth that in Heidelberg, which was in 51, and the dentist would make a wax pattern drill out and make a wax pattern, put it on a sprue, and I walk down the hall to the dental laboratory, cast it in gold, finish it and polish it, and go back a couple of hours later. The dentist would cement it in, and they're still there, some of them, after 69 years or something like that.
In the military today, it's significant to be deployed. Meaning, when you deploy, you come back and you have a patch. You get to wear a patch on your right sleeve. So during the time frame that you went in, there would have been a lot of World War II veterans that were still serving on active duty, and there would have been Korean War veterans that were serving on active duty. Could you tell? I mean, could you tell, like the when working on them, with dealing with any of these veterans, was there any obvious stress? Because we talk a lot about the stress of war, and dealing with these soldiers that had been through horrible things. Yet
well, in Heidelberg, the World War II was over, and then the Korean War started, and a lot of people went from Heidelberg directly to Korea because there was a MASH unit located right next to our hospital. They were training to be medical technicians in Korea. But being in the dental corps there in Heidelberg, I didn't have we had Germans who worked there, former POWs of ours. There were 5 guys, and my future husband and I were the only people in that dental laboratory. And we got to be real friends with those guys, and they were good technicians. They knew what they were doing, and the Army hired them.
Wow. Did you ever think about the fact that they were the enemy at one time and they were POWs? Did you ever cross your mind? Or
no, they were just people.
They were just people.
And they could speak English.
Yeah. Did you ever go to the wall while you were over there?
Berlin?
Yes.
No, it opened. It didn't open to the public until after, when we lived here. My brother-in-law had been a POW of the Germans in World War II. And he and his wife and my husband went there the day that the wall opened, but they had to come out that day. They could only stay for that visit. They couldn't stay overnight. But I've never been there. My husband has.
Did you ever feel the stress, or did you ever think about the fact that there was a Cold War going on at that time?
Oh, yeah, I was aware. Yeah. I'm a newspaper person.
Did you have to do any special training when they talked about the fact that there might be a war with Russia?
No, not then. But one thing, when we went to Ethiopia, of course, Haile Selassie was in exile someplace in Europe at the time, and there was trouble between Eritrea, the former. Eritrea was a self-governing part of Ethiopia at the time, but there was always tension and war. But anyway, we had, my 2 children and I had to have a footlocker packed with 3 days worth of clothing and supplies in case we had to evacuate. And that was when they were just in kindergarten and 1st grade.
Wow. Most people don't know that we have a robust Africa Corps, and we've always had a foothold in Africa. Mm-hmm. And when we think about being deployed, most people don't know that people get deployed to Africa and the continent and Ethiopia and places like that, and there's always the threat of war there.
Yes, and there still is. But in the news right now between Eritrea and Ethiopia, it's still going on.
One last question, going back to your basic training, and then I want to talk about your quilting. When you were going through the basic training as a woman, it was segregated. And did you have to train with weapons at all, or did they?
No.
No, they didn't even
And
train you with
we
weapons.
wore dresses, nylons, and garter belts, and marching in those things. You know, we did. It was years later till the Army put pants on the women. Oh, we had exercise things like long shorts or something for exercise, but it was just strictly dresses till I got out.
Was your drill sergeant a female or a male?
Female.
Female.
It was all female.
Wow. How long was your training, basic training back
Basic
then?
training, I think 2 months.
2 months.
And then school, and then I was a medic for a couple of years. Gave shots in a dependence clinic, and screaming children, holding them down, giving them shots. And then I went back to school became a dental technician.
Well, that's neat. Let's talk about your quilts. Well, thank you, Doris, for being here. And I almost called you Lewis because Lewis is my son's name. And you were saying you had a nickname in the Army?
The Army always calls the roll by just yelling out your last name. So I got my nickname Lou there, or Lulu. I think my Italian friends call me Luigi. But I'm called Lou here. I always have to remind people, you know, it's Doris L. Gresham, Lou.
Well, what we're doing in the project, the Honor Cafe Hall of Heroes, is we're collecting artwork, we're collecting poetry, and this is art. So I want to talk about your quilting and what you've done here.
Well, in 2010, there was a retired Army nurse who lived at Carriage Inn, where I live, and she started this quilting group here at the museum and making these little lap quilts for veterans. You see, we tried to use all the military material in red, white, and blue.
I think we got it upside down. Let's turn it around
Yeah,
for the
no,
camera. There we go.
But this right here is, I always put a little
Okay.
thank you on
There it
the
is.
corner of mine.
There it is. Thank you.
And we have a logo saying Hearts of Veterans Museum Quilters. But I've made about 180 of these since 2010.
180 of these?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, this is just beautiful.
This is the last one of mine in the box. The other people make them, but during the COVID pandemic, I was the only one that came and quilted on Wednesday, and so everybody else was on quarantine at Carriage Inn. So I'd come quilting, go back, be on quarantine for 2 weeks. The next Wednesday, I'd go quilting, come back, quarantine for 2 weeks, and that went on for a year. But I got a lot of them made.
Doris, I think that's called courage, and we have courage right here. And I think then we have the Army. So you're all about courage. You joined the military in a time when it wasn't popular for women, but you're courageous.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and
My pleasure.
it was an honor.
And you may have this if you want it.
Really?
'Cause I'll have another one finished.
Yeah,
next
actually,
week.
we like to take this to the Honor Cafe.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
And it's got my name on it there.
Yes.
On the little
Definitely going to be on display at the Honor Cafe.
That's so nice.
All right.
Thank you.